Om Sapakaya Dharmasya Sarvadharmaswarupine Stapakaya Dharmasya Sarvadharmaswarupine Avatara Varishtaya Ramakrishna Te Namaha Asato Ma Sadgamaya Tamaso Ma Jyotirgamaya Pratyorama Mritangamaya Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Let us offer our salutations to Sri Ramakrishna, the embodiment of all religions, the Supreme God Incarnate, who came to establish Temple Universal. Let us pray to Him to lead us from unreal to real, to lead us from the darkness of ignorance to the light of knowledge, to lead us from death to immortality. Today's topic: the 4 pillars of spiritual life. People really show great interest in spiritual life, but it is very important to have preparations for having successful spiritual life. So basic qualifications, basic preparations are essential for building up strong spiritual life. So these basic preparations have been well classified. The first pillar of the spiritual life is Viveka, discrimination. We have that faculty of reasoning, understanding and grasping, but because this intellect has been diverted to the things of the world, the sharpness of the intellect is gone. It has become blunt. Buddhi has become manda buddhi, not sukshma buddhi. One gets sukshma buddhi only when the intellect is properly sharpened. So, the holy persons have very clearly stated that Viveka is very essential pillar of spiritual life. It is the understanding or observation that everything is changing. Changes not only the prices of shares that keep ticking on the screen, but also in your thoughts and emotions. For instance, we cannot maintain the same degree of sadness every day, all the time. We can never be unhappy for the same reason continuously. How does it help to know that everything changes? The moment you see that things are changing, simultaneously you start seeing that the one who is observing the change is not changing. The reference point of change is non-change. There is a famous Vedantic textbook named Drishya Viveka. Drik means the self. Drishya means everything else. Everything is a drishya except myself. One can begin this practice by seeing quite clearly that everything external to my body is an object of observation, known by me as an object which changes. Then what about the body? Is it an object? Am I aware of it? Can I watch it changes? Yes. What about the organs, sense organs? Are they objects? Am I aware of them? Am I aware whether they are working or not? Yes. Do all these objects change? Yes. Can I observe them change? Again, yes. Move in. What about thoughts? What about moods? What about emotions? Are they objects? Objects of observation? Do they change? Can I watch them change? Again, yes. But is there something in all of this? Something about me which doesn't change? Is there something which is always constant to every thought, mood, emotion, sensation, and object of cognition? What is it about me which doesn't change? What is that? That which doesn't change and is me, is the self, is Atman. And this Atman is Brahman. Can the mind make this differentiation, the distinction, this discrimination between that which doesn't change and that which does? Yes, it can. One should discriminate between real and the unreal. And the mind should be turned away from the unreal. This reasoning is very important. Then only you can discard what is unreal. In the domain of Maya, there is both Vidya and Avidya. That which leads a person to God and that which leads a person away from God. One is called Vidya, the other one is called Avidya. Vidya is spiritual discrimination and renunciation. By taking refuge in Vidya, you take refuge in God. While Avidya, which consists of lust, anger, greed, egotism, attachment, and envy, drags a person down to the level of a brute. If you cultivate discrimination and renunciation, Avidya will be destroyed If you yield to avidya, God remains far away and suffering will be your lot. There are both vidya and avidya. Man has the power to choose the one or the other. And on the nature of this choice will depend his success or failure in life. And he will reap the fruits of his choosing. So choosing is very important. Do you want vidya or avidya? Hanging on to the world, clinging to the worldly things is characteristic of avidya. That means you are holding on unreal to the real. That's why you are constantly suffering, knowingly or unknowingly. As long as you hold on to unreal, you are bound to suffer. Practice. Continuous practice and discrimination are what are needed. Whatever you have to do for people, do with the idea that you are serving the divine in those forms. Then you won't get attached too much. And along with all this, you must have the power of discrimination wide awake. The discrimination between the real and the unreal gives rise to detachment. Retire into solitude occasionally. Practice discrimination and self-analysis. And try to discover the subtle obstacles that obstruct your path to spiritual progress. You will find that there are many subtle impressions, habits of thought and action lying dormant and hidden in the subconscious regions of the mind. Analyze yourself in solitude. Find out the obstacles and then struggle without compromise to remove them. Sri Ramakrishna said in the Gospel, haven't you seen the trees on the footpath along a street? They are fenced around as long as they are very young. Otherwise cattle destroy them. But there is no longer any need of fences. When their trunks grow thick and strong, then they won't break even if an elephant is tied to them. Just so, there will be no need for you to worry and fear if you make your mind as strong as a thick tree trunk. Last of all, try to acquire discrimination. Break the jackfruit open only after you have rubbed your hands with oil. Then its sticky milk won't smear them. Then a person asked, what is discrimination? Sri Ramakrishna said, discrimination is the reasoning by which one knows that God alone is real and all else is unreal. Real means eternal and unreal means impermanent. He who has acquired discrimination knows that God is the only substance and all else is non-existent. With the awakening of this spirit of discrimination, a person wants to know God. On the contrary, if a person loves the unreal, such things as creature comforts, name, fame, wealth, then he doesn't want to know God, who is of the very nature of reality. Through discrimination between the real and the unreal, one seeks to know God. By turning the mind within oneself, one acquires discrimination. And through discrimination, one thinks of truth. So, discrimination plays a very important role in building up our spiritual life. So that is considered as first pillar, first strong pillar. 3 more strong pillars are required. 4 strong pillars are required for building up spiritual life. Without the pillars, people want to build spiritual life, it's mockery. Without the pillars, we can't build life. So, first of all, very important is that you must have strong spiritual aspiration. Then only you feel inspired to build up your spiritual life. So, you have to become strong. You have to become wise. You must sharpen your intellect. You must apply reasoning in a proper way. Knowing real to be real and unreal to be unreal. The moment you try to discriminate what is real and what is unreal in a proper way, then your hanging on to the world becomes loosened. You show no more interest in these fleeting objects of the world, in these deceiving allurements of the world. And you will be seriously thinking about knowing your true self. That is about the first pillar, which are discrimination, Viveka. The second pillar, equally important, very strong, is Vairagya or dispassion. Dispassion, detachment. Please note, it is not the same as apathy or being unenthusiastic, depressed, or not being interested in anything. Dispassion is a lack of feverishness. Be in what you desire, hope, and aspire for. Sri Ramakrishna said in the Gospel, by meditating on God in solitude, the mind acquires knowledge, dispassion, and devotion. But the very same mind goes downward if it dwells in the world. In the world, there is only one most prominent thought, namely lust and gold. Lust and gold. So, one has to build up Vairagya. In order to acquire these qualifications, is very important. One should engage oneself in the holy company. One should actively participate in spiritual retreats, which are very helpful in building spiritual life. You have to get out from this usual worldly routine environment into uplifting spiritual environment to clean yourself in every possible way. So this is the second strong pillar, Vairagya. Viveka, Vairagya. Now third pillar is the sixfold virtues. Sixfold virtues, six wealths constitute the third pillar. What are they? Shama, Dama, Uparati, Titiksha, Shraddha and Samadhana. These are the six virtues. The six wealths, very essential to build the strong third pillar. All these 6 qualities are taken as one because they are calculated to bring about mental control and discipline, without which concentration and meditation are impossible. Closing the eyes doesn't mean you are meditating. Meditation requires a lot of preparedness. So these are the preparations one must acquire to have effective, inspiring meditation. One is Shama. Shamadamadi Shat Sampatti, they call in Sanskrit. Shat Sampatti. These are the real wealth. One who is possessed of these wealth is the richest person in the world, in the whole universe. Shama means tranquility or control of mind, calmness. Dhamma means control of the senses. Uparati means renunciation of activities which are not duties. Titiksha means endurance, forbearance of the pairs of opposites. Shraddha means faith. Samadhana means perfect concentration, one-pointedness of the mind. These sixfold virtues are considered one pillar, Shamadamadi Shat Sampatti. The fourth pillar is Mukshutva, intense longing for liberation. Now, coming to this third pillar, the first quality which I just mentioned, Shama, which is brought about through the eradication of desires. Try to have intense love for God and the mind will remain always tranquil and pure. Strive to attain tranquility. Don't give way to inertia, but struggle to gain spiritual calmness. To attain spiritual tranquility, you must keep up a regular practice, even against your inclinations. With the growth of tranquility, a person becomes eager to see the vision of God. He then delights in singing His glory and meditating upon Him more and more. He feels joy and joy. The mind is subject to all three gunas, sattva, rajas, tamas. When the sattva becomes established through practice, the mind always remains tranquil. Whenever you feel a predominance of sattva and your mind is tranquil, leave your work and engage yourself in the practice of japam and meditation. Spiritual disciplines are practiced to bring purity and tranquility to the mind. If you practice japa and meditation and the mind still doesn't become tranquil, or if you do not taste joy in God, then you may know you are not practicing properly. If you practice japa and meditation regularly, without break, for some years, then you will see for yourself what the result comes to pass. Your mind will become pure and you will be absorbed in the thought of God. Then you will be reluctant to leave off meditation even for a single day. There will come an inner tranquility which will fill your heart with joy. As long as a person desires the things of the world, it is not possible for him to have any earnest desire to know God. As long as a child is absorbed in his toys, he forgets his mother. But as soon as he tires of them, he cries for her. and he is not happy till he sees mother. Similarly, when a person tries of the playthings of the world, his heart yearns for God, and he struggles with all his mind and will surely find ways to find him. The desire to live a pure and holy life does not come easily. But know this for a certainty: the grace of God is upon all those in whom this desire is awakened. In the world, man receives repeated blows. He suffers much, and yet the desire to walk the path of God doesn't enter into his heart. He knows full well that every time he puts his hand in the fire, it will burn. Yet still he does it. Not only so, he uses every inducement to encourage others to do the same, and regards that man as crazy who desists. If you have the craving for fleshy enjoyments or the slightest desire for the things of the world, you can't reach God. Nagmashay, one of the great devotees of Sri Ramakrishna, used to say, it is like trying to row an anchored boat. He also used to say, it is easy to get name and fame, but holy is he who can renounce them. Hold on for a little while. Do not give your mind up to objects of desire. You must exercise great self-control in everything. Objects of desire, they will follow you like slaves. Then, through God's grace, you will find you have no desire for them, nor will you feel any attachment to them. Effort must be your motto if you want to grow spiritually. Keep watch over every small desire which arises and control it. During meditation, think that desires for worldly things are worthless. This will leave a good impression on the mind. As you drive away the desires from your mind, good thoughts and feelings will come up. One can have that much desire as is absolutely necessary for self-preservation. The main object of self-preservation is to be able to call on the Lord wholeheartedly and to do works in His service. That's all. Renunciation means doing away with the three foremost desires, according to Brihadaranyaka Upanishad. The desires for progeny, wealth, and popularity. A devotee accepting the dualistic view renounces all desires except the desire for God. He alone is to be desired in life. The desire to realize God is not really a desire at all. It will not do to have mere external renunciation. One must eradicate from one's very mind any desire for lust and gold. Sri Ramakrishna said in the Gospel, one must set fire to one's desires. Then only can one succeed. That's all about Shama, control of the mind. Then comes Dhamma, control of the senses, Indriyas. One must try to control the senses. Several guidelines have been incorporated in our spiritual works. Some of them may appear to be extremely difficult to follow by all, more so in the present circumstances when they are surrounded by temptations. For example, it is easy to advise a person to avoid worldly pleasures beyond a limit. No one can easily conquer the influence of the senses. But what is intended to focus is that there should be moderation in one's habits. Moderation. His quest for enjoyment should be within bounds. For example, consuming some prohibited food will kindle the animal instincts in person, and hence he is asked to refrain from such types lest he should turn beastly. There are restrictions on the nature of one's diet, and when a person confines oneself to them, his behavior will be found to be gentle and soft. Any act of enjoyment of any kind that exceeds the normal standards will result in calamities. To explain the repercussions of such deeds, an illustration is given. A bird in need of food, after search for a long time, spotted a carcass floating in the sea, and seated on it started pecking its prey. In the process it became oblivious of time and place, and ultimately found that the dead body had drifted from the shore. Tired and unable to fly back, it perished only to become prey to other birds. Man, claiming to possess the rare faculty of thinking and conducting himself in accordance with the moral code, should be judicious. No one asks him to totally abjure worldly pleasures, but he should not become an animal by justifying that no harm will result out of his dangerous activities, defying the spiritual injunctions. For having coveted his brother's wife, Vali in the Ramayana was duly punished by the Lord, who descended in human form to re-establish moral order. Anjaneya, Hanuman, had the power to have dealt with him, but he was not assigned that task. A similar restraint was displayed by Bhima in the Mahabharata while dealing with the wicked forces when Draupadi was being insulted. But he left it to the Lord, who had become as Krishna, to punish the culprits and save the honor of his devotee. The law of righteousness should be strictly adhered to by studying the sacred texts, in which numerous instances of how God had extended his grace have been portrayed. If the rules are discarded, the violator will be caught in the cycle of rebirths. Be master of the senses. The body wields influence over the senses. The senses have even greater influence over the body. The body cannot exist without the senses, and vice versa. They are inextricably interdependent. Each is useless without the other, like the positive and negative ends of an electric current. Proper protection of the body is an essential duty of the individual. In this connection, the role of the senses is remarkable. Equally, the part played by the senses is marvelous. The senses are subtler than the body. Although the potencies of sound, touch, sight, hearing and taste exist within the body, the senses exercise extraordinary power over all of them. Joy and sorrow, heat and cold are experienced when the sense organs come into contact with external objects. Without sensory objects, the senses cannot function. It is not easy for anyone to comprehend and describe the myriad facets of the sense organs. The senses have another name called matraha. Matra is that which measures. The sense organs have the capacity to measure. How is this done? Take for example a fruit. Which of the senses has the power to determine whether it is sweet or sour? Which sense organ decides the taste of an object? It is the tongue. The tongue determines whether an eatable is tasty or not and makes it known to the person concerned. Which organ has the capacity to declare, in the case of a picture, whether it is attractive or otherwise? The determining organ is the eye, In the same way, the power to determine whether an object is fragrant or foul smelling is given to the nose. The ear determines whether a certain note is harmonious or discordant. It is because the sense organs have this power of measuring and determining the particular characteristic of sense objects that they are called matraha, measuring instruments. The senses are like the horses. In the Kathopanishad, the senses are described as horses yoked to the chariot of the body. And regarding the senses as horses, what is the inner significance? Ashva means horse. Ashva means that which is continually restless. It is common knowledge that a horse, whether it is running or standing or sleeping, moves some part of its body or the other all the time. The tail or the leg or the back or the nose, some part or other is kept moving. It is because of its restless nature that the horse is called Ashva. Take the example of a peepal tree. Whether there is any breeze or not, its leaves are always rustling. Hence it is called Ashwatha tree. In ancient times, the rulers used to perform Ashwamedha sacrifice. Ashwa means that which is fickle and restless. Medha means buddhi, intelligence. Ashwamedha means fickle-minded. The horse that is used in the yaga, the horse that is used in the yaga symbolizes a fickle mind. Whoever is capable of capturing and controlling that horse is described as Dhimanta, a man of heroic intelligence, worthy of meeting in combat. Here we see the esoteric and exoteric meanings of the term Ashwamedha. It is only when both the meanings are synthesized that we get at the whole truth. It is the duty of every person to control the horse-like senses. Only then can he become a hero. Whatever yagas or yajnas one may perform, whatever scripture he may have mastered, if he has no control over his senses, all these accomplishments are worthless. The term matra, as applied to senses, has yet another meaning. It indicates that there is divinely prescribed limit to what each indriya can experience. For instance, the eye can only see but cannot hear. The mouth can only speak but can't see. Thus each organ has been endowed by God with a specific talent. Only those who use these organs according to the divinely prescribed functions will be acting up to the will of the divine. Those who violate the prescribed limits will be going against the divine will. Hence, everyone should try to use the sense organs with due regard to their prescribed functions. The nose, for example, has been allotted a specific assignment. It should inhale and exhale air for the purpose of preserving an individual's health. The nose should distinguish between good and bad smells and take in only what is good and fragrant. This is the specific role ordained for the nose by God. Unfortunately, the nose is used for other purposes, for taking stuff and inhaling foul smell, foul air. By these practices, one violates the injunctions pertaining to the use of the nose. Thereby he commits a double offense, one violating a divine injunction and the other causing damage to his health. As a result, man becomes a prey to disease. Likewise, in the case of a tongue, it has been given to man so that it may decide what is wholesome and what is bad in the food that is consumed, so as to promote one's health, to speak sweetly and give joy to others, and to communicate one's innermost thoughts to others. The tongue, which has been given for these edifying purposes, is being grossly misused today. It is used for consuming narcotics, eating animal food, smoking, indulging in abuse of others, carrying tales, using harsh words, and causing pain to others. In these ways, the injunctions of the divine are violated by setting at naught the prescribed limits. As a consequence, man experiences numerous troubles. It is only by using the divinely given senses for the purposes for which they are intended that man can rise to the level of the divine. You should not use the sense organs as you please just because you have them. They are like horses yoked to a chariot. You must know how to handle them properly so that the chariot can be used well. The horses must be in front of the chariot. Today, on the contrary, the horses are behind the chariot. This leads to dangerous consequences. If on the ground that he should respect the senses and give them a place of honor, you place the horses in the chariot, what will be the result? The chariot cannot move at all. While fostering the senses, no effort is being made to bring them under control internally. This is like feeding a horse excessively, but not giving it adequate work. This also is likely to have untoward results. We are failing today to engage the senses adequately. They are being allowed to run amok. As a consequence, the senses are threatening to dictate to the master. So, one should control the senses to attain divinity. All these points are very important in spiritual life. And there is another interesting thing to note. There are 10 wives of the mind. Mind has got wives. W-I-V-E. Wife. This situation may be likened to that of a man with many wives. Uttanapada, in this life story of Dhruvanarayan, Uttanapada was a king. He had 2 wives, and because of the differences between them, the child Dhruva had to go to the forest to perform performance. Dashrath had 3 wives. To comply with the demands of his youngest wife, Dashrath had to endure the departure of his dearest son Rama to the forest. If such difficulties can arise from those having 2 or 3 wives, imagine the plight of one who has to manage 10 wives. The mind has 10 wives. Who are they? The 5 sense organs and the 5 organs of action. Each organ seeks to enjoy objects of its own choice. The nose smells some good edible and wants to have it. The ear hears some sweet music and wants to enjoy it. The eye hankers after new film. When all of them are keen about their own particular desires, how can the master, the mind, satisfy them all at the same time? Unable to satisfy them, the mind gets frustrated. How can one wedded to 10 wives get peace? It is only when the senses are kept under proper control that the man would be happy himself and share that happiness with others. So we must cultivate equanimity to control the senses. There is a method by which the demands of the senses can be reconciled and harmonized. This is by treating both good and bad with equal mindedness. There are people who display such equanimity. Tukaram, for example, is an illustrious example to clarify this point. He was a saintly person. His wife was a very different nature. By his calmness and forbearance, Tukaram managed to get on with her, even though she was of a different nature. Once Tukaram was bringing home in his cart the sugarcane crop harvested from his small farm. As he was going home, the children of the village gathered round him and pleaded for a piece of sugarcane. In his boundless goodness, Tukaram allowed the children to help themselves to the cane on the cart. By the time he reached home, there was only one stalk of cane left. Seeing this, his wife became terribly angry. She abused Tukaram, and taking out the cane, she struck Tukaram with it. The cane broke into 3 pieces. The blow was so strong, the cane itself broke into 3 pieces. But what was the reaction? Tukaram calmly remarked, "Well, I was wondering how to distribute the single remaining cane to the members of the family. You have solved the problem. You can keep 1 piece to yourself and give the other 2 to the children." So the problem is solved automatically. Such forbearance and equanimity can be found only in a few high-souled persons. These qualities can be acquired only through devotion and faith. You need not feel disheartened at the prospect of being unable to control the senses. Kabir is an example of a godly man in a different situation. His wife was highly devoted and faithful, totally dedicated to serving the husband. One day, Kabir was playing his loom, chanting the name of Ram all the time. Suddenly he called his wife and said that one thread had snapped, and asked her to bring a lamp. It was noon, and when she brought the lighted lamp, Kabir told her to take it away as it was not necessary. She silently took it back without any argument. With such a dutiful wife, Kabir was able to develop his devotion and expressed his gratitude to God for his grace. A lesson to be learnt in the self-control, in the sense control. Here we have 2 examples of saintly persons who, despite their different family situations, pursued their godly ways equally well. It is not the environment that matters, it is the purity of our impulses which count. Don't worry about the external environment. The ancient sages regarded sense control as a form of penance. Disciplining of senses calls for an understanding of how the senses function. A Christian priest learnt a lesson in sense control from the driver of a horse carriage in which he was travelling. The priest noticed that the driver was beating the horses severely as it was approaching a railway crossing. Taking pity on the animal, the priest asked the driver why he was beating the horse unnecessarily. The driver explained that at the level crossing there were some white painted stories. There were some white painted stones which caused a fright in the horse. So he was beating the animal as the horse was more afraid of the whip than the white stones. The priest learnt that diverting the mind away from one undesirable thought was the way to turn it in the desirable direction. The senses have been compared to animals whose vision is externally oriented. Man should strive to be a master of the senses and not their slaves. For this purpose, first of all, man should not pamper the senses. Man should realize that the pleasure derived from the senses is momentary and it ends only in grief. If the senses are kept busy the right way, there will be no trouble for them. So like this, the virtues are explained Then comes the Uparati. It is resolutely turning the mind away from desire for sensual pleasures. This state of mind comes naturally when one has practiced Viveka Vairagya, Shama and Dhamma. Uparati literally means to rest. Stimuli such as form, sound, touch, smell, etc. attract the mind and cause bondage. We become attracted to an object we see because we think that there is something very special in it. When discrimination dawns on us, and when we realize that they are not permanent, and that indulging in such attraction will only bring misery, we will no more be attracted by them. Consequently, the sense organs will stop running behind them. Such a recess of the sense organs is called Uparati. When Dhamma is practiced with the help of Uparati, achieved by the power of discrimination, it leads us to Shama. On the other hand, if Dhamma is practiced either out of fear or for the sake of acquiring some supernatural power, it will cause more harm than good. For example, a thief who refrains from stealing and a police officer is around will go back to his old habit once he sees an innocuous victim. The demons who undertake intense tapas by forcibly suppressing the sense organs and the mind to appease Lord Brahma will ultimately turn out to become terrible tormentors. So Uparati is strict observance of one's own duty. It is the state of the mind and senses that are withdrawn from reveling in the world of objects. When Shama and Dhamma become natural, Uparati is automatically achieved. If Shama and Dhamma, in Shama and Dhamma, the mind and senses may be amongst objects but are restrained with alertness. In Uparati, they are automatically withdrawn from the objects. Just like the tortoise that withdraws its head and limbs effortlessly into its shell. And once duties are performed with enthusiasm and dedication, the performance brings joy and the mind becomes steady and single-pointed, free of likes and dislikes, peaceful and withdrawn. Therefore, only when Dhamma is practiced with the help of Uparati, it will yield favorable results. Titiksha is the power of endurance. An aspirant should patiently bear the pairs of opposites, such as heat and cold, pleasure and pain, etc. Titiksha means tolerance. When a man is exposed to sorrow and other undesirable situations, he will naturally try to look for a suitable remedy. The pursuit of remedial measures will often prompt him to resort to wrong methods, and thereby man commits sins. One who realizes that it is not possible for one to escape the karmas of the past lives, and when one realizes with the help of discrimination that the miseries of today are in fact the consequence of the sins committed in the previous lives, one will refrain from resorting to wrong methods. When one realizes that the world one sees is impermanent, trivial and unreal, one will understand that sorrow is as meaningless as pleasure in this mortal world. Then one will neither try to gratify sense pleasures nor try to overcome miseries brought about by the sense organs. This condition is called as titiksha. Titiksha makes way to Uparati. So titiksha is the endurance of heat and cold, pleasures and pain, etc. To be able to bear non-conducive situations without reacting, complaining or blaming, but with cheerful acceptance is called titiksha. It is the shock absorber with which one rides the rough terrain of life without breaking one's enthusiasm. When we remain preoccupied by our little sorrows, they appear big. When we see others' sorrows, we get the strength to bear out our own. I cried that I did not have shoes till I saw a child who did not have legs. Then comes Shraddha. It is intense faith in the word of the Guru, in Vedantic scriptures, and above all in one's own self. It is not blind faith but is based on accurate reasoning, evidence and experience. As such, it is lasting, perfect and unshakable. Such a faith is capable of achieving anything. Shraddha means conviction or faith. It is now clear that the first four aspects are achieved with the help of discrimination. Discrimination in turn comes from the knowledge of scriptures. Those who teach us the scriptures are gurus. Only when we have unflinching faith, we can understand those aspects properly. We will be able to experience them also. Therefore, Shraddha or faith is the basis of the above four aspects. We experience different feelings. For example, feelings such as this body is mine and I am this body, both are experienced by us. This is a paradoxical thinking because that which belongs to us should always be different from us. When we set out to analyze these experiences and find out the truth, sometimes the words of the scriptures and gurus may seem absurd, but if we have faith in their words and analyze properly, we will realize the absurdity in our thinking. Eventually, we will realize that the teachings of the scriptures and the gurus are true. Before this truth is realized, if we start doubting the validity of the scriptures and the guru, we will be compounding our problems. Therefore, only when we firmly believe that the words of the scriptures and the gurus are true and that our doubts are purely due to our ignorance, we will qualify to experience truth. Such is a steadfast faith, and that is called Shraddha. So faith in the words of Guru, Vedanta, is called Shraddha. Faith is a very important factor in our lives. We sleep with faith that we will wake up in the morning. Faith is always in the unknown. The known requires no faith, as it is already known. Faith enables us to listen to the scriptures with an open and alert mind. It doesn't sleep inquiry. It does not stop inquiry. In fact, it encourages the seeker to reflect upon and realize the truth. It is therefore not blind. It only strengthens through inquiry and culminates in knowledge. Then comes Samadhana. Samadhana is the single pointedness of the mind. Normally, the mind wanders and our efforts are distracted. When a single goal is established, with the single goal, the mind and our efforts become concentrated and we progress faster. Samadhanam is a state of mind which one has with a single goal in sight. To reach this goal, one controls the mind, Shama, and the senses, Dhamma, withdraws from worldly pursuits, Uparati, endures the pinpricks of life, Titiksha, and faithfully follows the path indicated by the Guru and the scriptures, Shraddha. The resultant absorption of the mind in the self is Samadhana. Samadhana is fixing the mind on Brahman or the Atman without allowing it to run towards objects. The mind is free from anxiety amid pains and troubles. There is stability, mental poise and indifference amid pleasures. The aspirant has neither like nor dislikes. He has great inner strength and enjoys unruffled peace of mind due to practice of Shama, Dhamma, Uparati, Titiksha and Samadhana. The fourth pillar is finally Mumukshutva. Mumukshutva is intense desire for liberation or deliverance from the wheel of births and deaths with its concomitant evils of old age, disease, delusion and sorrow. If one is equipped with the previous three qualifications, Viveka, Vairagya and Shat Sampatti, then the intense desire for liberation will come without any difficulty. The mind moves towards the source of its own accord when it has lost its charm for external objects. When purification of mind and mental disciplines are achieved, the longing for liberation dawns by itself. So Mumukshutvam is the intense desire for liberation. Prompted by the desire for happiness, man runs after the objects, people and experiences of the world. He gathers money, attains fame, status and power, travels, enjoys, marries, begets children, etc. In the process, he experiences various measures of sorrows. Finally, one day he feels enough is enough. I want to get out of this mess. He refuses to get tossed around by the world. He wants to end all sorrows for all times to come. He wants to get liberated from all limitations. This desire is called mumukshutvam. Most of us do not even know that we are bound. One with strong mumukshutvam reaches the goal. All other qualities also equally accrue to him. Mumukshutvam is a desire for the highest, a desire for total freedom, for enlightenment. So, Viveka, Vairagya, Shamadhamadisha Sampati and Mumukshutva, these are the four pillars on which spiritual life is to be built for experiencing the supreme bliss of Paramatman. This is called as Atyantika Mukti, final liberation from all bondage and sufferings, resulting in the experience of immense, purest, everlasting happiness. So, we must build our spiritual life on these strong four pillars. And to start the spiritual life, most important thing, topmost priority is we must have strong spiritual aspiration. Thank you. An important announcement. We are planning to have consecration of phase 1 of Sri Ramakrishna Universal Temple, a consecration ceremony to celebrate the completion of the construction of phase 1 of Sri Ramakrishna Universal Temple will be held at the temple site from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. on Sunday, July 1st. We will be performing Ganapati Homa, Navagraha Homa and Sri Ramakrishna Homa and Archana, 1000 names of God. So all these worships are being done on that day for the consecration of the completion of the building. Om Sahana Bhavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavamahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om. O Lord, protect us, guide us, nourish us. May our knowledge be fruitful and enlightened. May we not hate each other. Peace, peace, peace be unto all.